You want to do best out of 3?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Ready? Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Damn, girl.
Wow.
Is this what you did in the military?
No.
All right.
Let me tell you what I did in the military.
It's like she knew what I was going to do.
I read your mind.
Okay.
Hello, Wanderers. I'm Jess.
And I'm Hannah.
And welcome to Wicked Wanderings. Hello, Hannah.
Hello, Jess.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going. How are you?
It's going. We are back at it again, talking about some douche canoes.
Yes.
I know it's everybody's favorite subject, which is why we have a podcast.
Whoop, whoop.
So, this case is a serial killer and probably one of the most prolific serial killers in the country. However, nobody has heard of him.
Yeah,
Barely anybody.
When you were mentioning him, I was like, who the fuck is that?
Yeah. So we're going to talk about major douche canoe, Israel Keys. The one thing that we should know is that for Israel Keys, his idol was Ted Bundy. So, I mean, if that kind of tells you the kind of douche canoe he is, right?
It's like those people that really have a thing for Adolf Hitler, you start to worry about a little bit, you know?
Yeah. Well, and what I didn't realize before researching, obviously, is there may or may not be some domestic terrorism ties with Israel Keys as well.
What?
Yeah, I was shocked when I heard that.
Israel's such an interesting name.
It is.
Do you know why he's called Israel?
His family, as I'll talk about, was very involved in a lot of extremist religions.
Okay.
And really, he was born in Utah, which I'll talk about, which I didn't even realize.
Oh my goodness, because you were saying like, all right, we need to get away from Utah and Massachusetts, and here we are.
And then here I am talking about someone who was born in Utah. But my main source for this episode is American Predator, The Hunt for the Most Meticulous Serial Killer of the 21st Century by Maureen Callahan. And I listened to the audiobook, and that was pretty good.
Yeah, so would you recommend the book?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. So if we really like the book we researched from, I think we should recommend, because we are book people too.
Yeah.
I think that'd be good. Like, we recommend this book to add something to it.
Yes. And so the reason I like this book is because she interviews the FBI agents that were involved. She interviews the police detectives that were involved in the investigations. And she also has some of the transcripts from the interviews. So, and then at the end, she'll say her sources. Like, hey, this is where I've gotten my information. And she had a lawyer involved to get some of the information.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Because a lot of this hasn't really been released. And you'll find out why.
Ooh.
In our second episode.
Oh. Well, you've captivated me.
Yes. So, shortly after 7 p.m. on February 1st, 2012, 18-year-old Samantha Koenig was working alone at a coffee kiosk in Anchorage, Alaska, called Coffee Grounds. And this was just like a small shack on the side of a busy road and just had like drive-through or walk-up. And she, that night, was fighting with her boyfriend, Dwayne, through texts in the middle of her orders.
And what year is this?
This is 2012.
Okay.
So pretty recent.
Yeah,
for
very
serial
recent.
killers.
Absolutely.
She was fighting with her boyfriend because she caught him flirting with other girls, and rightfully so, she got a little upset.
Yeah, as we all would.
So a man who would later be identified as, like I said, Major Douche Canoe Israel Keys, came up to the window and ordered an Americano. And when Samantha handed over the coffee, Keys pulled out a gun and told her to hand over the money in the register. She does that, and then he tells her to turn off the lights in the kiosk. He has her back up to the window. To the window. To the walls.
Beep, 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 down my balls. Oh, see, I was beeping it out, and she's like, let's talk about them balls. Sorry, Mom.
So he pulled out a gun, told her to hand over the money in the register. She does that, and he tells her to turn off the lights in the kiosk and back up to the window.
To the wall.
Yes. So he can tie her hands behind her back and then tells her to kneel on the floor and kind of move out of the way. Then Keyes climbs through the window. They talk for a few minutes. He asks her some questions. Did she push the alarm? No, she said. He asked her if she was being truthful because he was actually wearing a earpiece with the police radio when he was listening to it in his ear. He told her.
So wait, there was actually a button in this small kiosk?
Mm-hmm.
I was not picturing that. I see that like in big like jewelry stores and stuff, but
apparently
interesting.
And from what I've read, that these little kiosks are a good target for robberies because they're kind of out of the way. And
especially in Alaska. Like it is Anchorage, but still Alaska.
Yeah. And this night, the kiosk was kind of surrounded by 5 feet drifts or like snowplow piles.
Yeah.
And so there was kind of a lot of privacy for him to do this. He told her he would kill her if he hears anything. She assured him that she didn't. Keyes asked what her name was, and she told him, and said her dad would be there any minute, even though he wasn't due to show up for like a half hour. He told her they were going for a walk, and he walks with her across the busy street to the Home Depot parking lot. And as they were walking, Keyes finds a camera on the ground, and it took his attention off Samantha for a moment. So it was like a Canon camera that he found and he wanted to sell. And so she took this opportunity to run, but he was able to tackle her and regained control by pressing his 22 pistol against her ribs.
I'm actually going to look up a picture of him now because I'm curious.
Yeah. He threatened to kill her if she tried to escape again. And there were people around in cars at the intersection, but either no one noticed or they just were minding their own business. And
he's so young.
Yeah, he was 34.
Wow. Sorry, he's so young. I don't know why that surprised me because like Ted Bundy was young.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah. Like I said, either no one noticed or they just minded their own business or knew that there was a kidnapping in progress. They made it through the Home Depot parking lot to where his white truck was parked in the IHOP parking lot. There was actually a car parked next to his truck, and there were people outside talking again. And he threatens Samantha again as they get in his truck, and he opens the door for her and puts on her seatbelt. And these people, too, leave without knowing what's going on. They stop at an intersection, and a police cruiser pulls up next to them.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Good news.
And Samantha is threatened again to not say anything. Keyes has the police radio in his ear, like I said, and Samantha can also hear the radio from the cruiser. And it almost seems like she's weighing out her options. Would they be able to see her? Would they be able to hear her? And what if they don't? What will he do to me? She doesn't say anything in hopes that Keyes will eventually let her go. He drives around for hours, and he tells her that he is kidnapping her for ransom. And she tells him that her family doesn't have any money, and he assures her that her family will be able to raise some money. And at one point during the drive, he realized that she didn't have her cell phone, which was an important part of his plan for ransom. So they drove back to the kiosk.
Sorry.
To get her cell phone, and he left her tied up in the truck. And he uses Samantha's phone to text Dwayne, acting as Samantha, telling him that she needs a vacation and she needs to take some time to think. So they drove around some more, and he ended up taking her to a park near his home, and there were people there as well. He and Samantha smoked a cigar, and he helped her since her arms were still tied behind her back. And he wasn't sure if anyone noticed him, but no one did anything if they did. He ties her up and tells her to lay down in the back seat, so he ties her legs or feet, and Samantha's shaking, so he puts some blankets over her and threatens her again to make sure she doesn't scream. He notices that she's low on gas, so he stops to get gas, where there are people around too. And it's like Keyes holds her captive in plain sight and scares her into silence when there's people around so many times. There are so many times where like she could have screamed out and people could have helped. And
so, maybe it's because of all the true crime and the podcast and all of the reading I do. But I think about that sometimes. I look around me, I'm like, how many people need help right now? And they can't, like, that's my mindset.
Yeah.
And I know that's not everyone's mindset, but like you're in, you know, a pride station or whatever, because pride's what we have around this area. And I'm like, does anyone need help? Am I not looking in the right spot?
But what would you do? Like, what would happen if this person has a gun?
Oh my God, I don't know.
Right? I
Like,
mean,
as a person captive or as a person that can help?
that could help.
I don't know. I'd like to think that I would do the right thing.
Yeah.
But when you're in that moment, that's petrifying.
Yeah. I was just listening to a podcast on Crime Junkie about her president's episode on why 911 was created. And it was because this girl had gotten attacked in like an apartment complex and she was screaming and people heard her. I can't remember her name, but he stabbed her. And then a guy yelled out the window like, hey, leave that girl alone. So the attacker took off. And then he waited around for 10 minutes. She's like walking to her apartment and she's like dying on the stairs, bleeding out. And the attacker comes back and sexually assaults her and continues to stab her. And there's people that hear this going on and nobody calls the police.
I can't imagine an era where there's no 911. I never would think about that. Which, by the way, I believe in the UK it's 999. Am I right?
You know what? I don't know. I say yes like I know. I know everything.
You are correct.
Okay.
Thanks, Rob.
Also, their sirens is different, but that's another story. I hope no one ever has to use it.
Yes.
But I have to say, dialing 911 is petrifying. I've had to do it. Jess, have you had to do it? It's, I don't know. It's the adrenaline's going for whatever reason it might be.
Yeah.
If you see something, say something, people. That's the
words
takeaway.
Words of wisdom from Hannah.
Come back for the other episodes.
So Keyes finally takes her to his house. Well, it's his girlfriend's house.
Ew.
And leaves her in the truck as he goes into the house to see if his girlfriend and his 10-year-old daughter are asleep.
Oh my God.
He then comes outside and starts to prep the shed that's next to the driveway. He tinkers around there until 1 a.m. when he gets Samantha out of the truck and takes her into the shed. He assured her that he was going to ask for ransom and then she'd be let go. Samantha gave him her address so he could get a hold of her dad for the ransom, and she also told him where to find her debit card in her truck at her house. You're going to think this is crazy. Keyes left Samantha tied up in the shed, then drove to her house, and as he was digging through the truck looking for the debit card, Samantha's boyfriend, Dwayne, randomly comes out of the house and sees Keyes going through the truck.
What the flying fuck?
The two men stare at each other for probably a few seconds, but it probably seemed like longer. And then Dwayne runs back into the house. Some sources say it was to go get help. But Keyes, having the debit card, takes off and goes to the ATM, and he realizes that he forgot the PIN number. So he drives back to his house to get the PIN from Samantha, then goes back to the ATM to test the PIN to make sure that she gave him the right one. So there's a lot of movement in this scenario.
It really is.
And usually he is more meticulous than that, has more of a plan. So I don't know what it was about this night that...
Because he seems like he has his shit together with having the scanner in his ear, finding a secluded place to put her, a secluded place to pick her up at. But then there's all these moving parts that just are like, oh, I'm out of gas, and like, oh, I need money. Like, what?
You think if you're gonna go murder somebody, you would,
try harder?
Yeah, top off the gas tank or something.
Just kidding. But yeah, seriously, this is very strange. But this obviously isn't his first killing.
No.
He's starting to get sloppy.
Yeah. And overconfident, I think.
Yeah.
And it goes to show you, because how many times is that they've been around people and he was able to like get her to comply?
Yeah.
So he finally gets back to the house, and trigger warning, he proceeds to sexually assault Samantha and then strangles her. He then heads into the house to pack for a pre-planned cruise that he and his girlfriend and his daughter are leaving for at 5 a.m.
Okay, we need to start actually videotaping us when we do this, because my faces already to this episode are like cringe.
Yes. your reactions. I love.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So Dwayne was supposed to pick Samantha up that night from work, and he had driven over to the kiosk, and the lights were turned off and everything was locked up.
Wait a minute. He let her lock up? So you're saying he went to the kiosk, the lights were off, and he let her lock up?
Maybe. No, actually, you know what? I don't know about that. The lights were turned off, and it seemed like everything was locked up. Let's say that.
Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out there,
no,
but
it's okay.
I was like, really?
Yeah.
Just lock up as usual. I'll wait right here. Mm-hmm. Freaking weirdo.
He assumed that she had gotten a ride from a friend, but the next morning, Dwayne and her father, James, Samantha's father, James, realized that Samantha never came home, and they hadn't heard from her, despite that text that she, in quotation, sent to Dwayne, saying that she was going on vacation. But they knew that that was not like her. Like something wasn't right. So James reports her missing. And James Koenig's relationship with the police wasn't necessarily a good one. He felt like the police weren't taking his daughter's disappearance seriously. And he was the one that was out coordinating searches and raising reward money for any information about Samantha. And he was able to raise $70,000.
Wow.
Yeah. The next day, the police were able to get security footage from the kiosk. And once they looked at it, they discovered that she wasn't a teen runaway, and they stepped it up into high gear. The video showed Samantha getting robbed, tied up, and taken from the kiosk. And they were able to discover the ATM transaction Keys attempted to verify that the PIN Samantha had given her. There was a video, but it was not helpful. Keys had hidden his identity, and at this point, there hadn't been any activity for days because he was enjoying life on a cruise.
Like a freaking psychopath.
Yeah. So Keys...
This better not been a Disney cruise because I'm picturing him dancing with Minnie and Mickey and it's sickening.
Ugh. Probably was. Meanwhile, Keys was back from his cruise around, I believe, the 17th. And he had to do something about Samantha. So he had taken, keep in mind, he had taken Samantha on February 1st, left for his cruise on the 2nd, and didn't come back until February 17th. So Samantha's body was in the shed for 15 days. Or 13 days.
But it...
2 weeks.
This doesn't make it any better, but if it was Alaska in January, at least it was cold and...
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I say next is that obviously in Alaska in February it's cold, so her body was kept cool.
Yeah.
And he actually warmed up the shed and decided to create the ransom note to see if he could get money. This fucking guy puts foundation on her body, the parts are showing, and then does her makeup, then tries to pose her with a paper from February 13th as proof of life for the ransom note. And do you want to know why he chose a paper from February 13th?
Do I want to know?
Because it was when he was on the cruise, and so he figured it would be a way to clear him if he was ever suspected.
Ah.
Fucking douche. So Keys attempts to pose her, but her face doesn't have any facial expression because she's dead. So he tries to super glue her eyes open, and that doesn't work. So this bastard takes a needle and thread and sews through her eyebrows and her eyelids to keep her eyes open to make it look like she's still alive. And so there's this...
What?
Yeah, like what kind of fucked up bullshit is that? So he takes a picture and then copies it onto a piece of paper and then types up a ransom note requesting $30,000. And there is a picture online that when you Google Samantha's ransom note picture, there is a picture out there. And a lot of sources say that is the picture, but the actual picture of Samantha has never been released. So whatever picture's out on the internet isn't her, just so you know. In case
so
you
it's
decide.
someone trying to...
Yeah, it's like a recreation of that picture.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen that one. Yeah, Rob has it. But her hair was braided and she had duct tape over her mouth. But isn't that one a messed up one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this wasn't until February 24th, 3 weeks since Samantha disappeared. Keyes sends a text to Dwayne from Samantha's phone telling him that the ransom note has been left on the bulletin board on a trailhead at this random park. Police responded to that location and found the note with her proof of life picture on it. And the police were actually unsure if she was still alive in the picture, but it created a little bit of hope that she'd be found. The detectives convinced James to at least put $5,000 of the reward money that he had raised into her bank account. They wanted to entice whoever took her to use the ATM in order to track him down. And James agreed to transfer money into Samantha's account. So before we go further into Samantha's case, we want to take a break.
Break.
A sincere expression of gratitude to our esteemed patrons, Lynn from Massachusetts, Heather from New Jersey, Courtney from Massachusetts, Amber from Idaho, and Chelsea from Utah, for their generous monthly contributions. Their support fuels the engine of our investigative endeavors here at Wicked Wanderings.
You too can become a valued patron and unlock a realm of exclusive content by supporting our mission for as little as $3 a month. Your contribution sustains our commitment to delivering high-quality content.
Visit wickedwanderingspodcast.com and click on the support tab to join the ranks of dedicated patrons like Lynn, Heather, Amber, Courtney, and Chelsea. Your investment not only keeps our podcast thriving, but also ensures you are at the forefront of intriguing discoveries.
Thank you for considering this opportunity to deepen your engagement with Wicked Wanderings. Your support is paramount in enabling us to continue our journey into the realms of mystery and true crime.
And now, back to the shit show. All right, so again, before we go into Samantha's case, let's get some background information on Israel. He was born January 7th, 1978 in Richmond, Utah. And like I said, I didn't know that because I was trying to get away from Utah. And he was the second of 10 kids.
Holy moly.
Yeah. And his parents held some fundamental and extremist beliefs, but he was born into the FLDS religion.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So, which is the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and for all yous out there, some people confuse this with the LDS or the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or what I make fun of as Mormons. But it's actually a break-off of the LDS, and the FLDS continue to practice polygamy, among other things. So think Warren Jeffs, cringy old men marrying 70 14-year-olds. So that's what he was born into.
Weirdos.
Mm-hmm.
Not the Mormons, I'm clear.
I mean, there's some.
Warren Jeffs, I'm clear.
Yeah. Talk about cringy.
Yeah.
The family then moved to a remote area in Colville, Washington when Keyes was 5 years old. They lived in a one-room cabin. 2 parents, 10 kids.
All right, that fits.
Yeah. And they were isolated from society. They attended a church called the Ark, which practiced white supremacy ideology.
Oh, God. This kid had no chance.
Nope. They also attended a church called Christian Israel Covenant that taught British Israelism as doctrine and thought that mixed marriages were abominable and deviant. So they were not...
Wow.
They did not believe in mixed race relationships. They believed that the Anglo-Saxons were to rule over the perceived inferior races, which Keyes alleged to have been militia-like. So the white supremacy. The Keyes children were made to hunt for food, chop firewood, and work on local farms to support the family. I hate to laugh at this, but sometimes you just have to, because one, I'm an idiot, and two, this is very serious stuff.
You are not an idiot.
Oh, thanks.
You're brilliant.
Keep it going. Remind me to pay you later. As a hobby, Keyes recalled hunting anything with a heartbeat. He admitted, and trigger warning, animal cruelty. He admitted to skinning a deer while it was alive to peers at church. He had shot the deer, but it wasn't dead yet, and he started to skin it while it was injured and still alive. Because of...
I'm sorry. When it comes to animals, for some reason, it's like,
You get so angry.
Like, you watch a horror story, all these people getting killed, and you're like, yeah, but is the puppy okay?
Yes. Because that's the important part.
Yeah.
I get so pissed.
Right?
And maybe it's because they can't defend themselves.
Yeah, I think that must be it. It must be it.
Yeah. Because of stuff like this, he was ostracized and actively avoided by other kids in the church.
Well, I can see why.
Yeah. He had a history of harming animals and fire setting. And there was another incident in which Keyes was with some friends of the family, and he took the family cat, tied it to a tree, shot it in the stomach, and it flew around the tree like a tetherball. It crashed into the tree and vomited. He looked back to the kids he was with, and one of the boys started vomiting as well. And he states that at this point, he realized he was different from his peers, and he started to keep his growing antisocial behavior to himself and began to withdraw socially.
Okay, I am seeing like check,
Exactly.
check on a mental health list here. Like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
This is rough. All right.
Yeah. During his teenage years, the family moved to Maine, where he built his first wood cabin for his family at 16. So he became quite the carpenter. I was almost about to make a Jesus joke, and that would have been so wrong. Were you thinking the same thing?
I was going to say, well, Jesus was a carpenter.
Anyway, moving on.
Again, sorry, Mom.
They lived in a mostly Amish community, and during this time, Keyes renounced his Christian faith and declared his atheism to his parents, who then shunned him and kicked him out and told his siblings not to have any contact with him. He developed an interest in Satanism and had plans to commit a ritualistic murder. Because, what else is there to do in Maine, I guess? I don't know.
I mean, so I don't know if you know anything about the Church of Satan.
I don't.
But it's really not about worshiping Satan.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
That's the thing. Like, that's what I'm laughing at. Not the part that he's killing people, but okay. Anyways, continue.
And the fact that he wants to commit a ritualistic murder.
Yeah.
So we see the history of behavior that leads up to becoming the serial killer, checking off the list.
Well, right, because he's obviously in some type of mental distress.
Yeah. He has a history of fire setting, killing animals, but he was also emotionally cast out by his father, who himself engaged in extremist religious practices.
But it doesn't sound like this kid ever went to public school. Like,
no,
it probably,
they were homeschooled.
Yeah, so it definitely couldn't have been caught by any type of social worker or teacher.
No. And he also did a 3-year tour in the Army from 1998 to 2001. Crazy, huh?
And he passed?
Yeah. It said he actually did really well in it.
Wow.
And that was before the war. So he got out.
Right.
But I think he was in Egypt. We'll get into that when we talk about other possible victims.
Huh.
So now that we have that history, let's get back to his involvement with Samantha's disappearance. So after James Koenig deposited $5,000 into Samantha's account, there was a withdrawal in Anchorage, Alaska. There is a video in this withdrawal, and it seemed like he was testing the daily limit, because he attempted a few times. Then a few days later, there was another withdrawal, but this one was 4,000 miles away in Wilcox, Arizona. Then another one in Lordsburg, New Mexico, and then another one in Humboldt, Texas, and then another one in Shepherd, Texas.
Wait, they're not checking her bank accounts?
No, they are. They're watching it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So authorities realize that he is headed east across the I-10 corridor.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I spoke too soon.
Well, no. Good question. So now they still don't know who they are dealing with. They have no idea. There was no evidence as to who this guy was and if he had known Samantha. Keyes did make one mistake, however. At the ATM withdrawal in Arizona, despite Keyes hiding his identity on video, like he would wear a hat, a mask.
Sorry.
I just bumped the mic because I talk with my hands.
Are you Italian?
No, I'm not. Not that I know of. Maybe I should do one of those DNA tests, but
Oh, you haven't done... Okay, that's another podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry. Keep going.
So he would wear a hat, a mask, and glasses and gloves so you couldn't even tell what race he was in. Like, that's the lengths that he went to hide his identity.
Race he was in?
Race he was. Sorry. Hannah made me do a shot before this episode, so I'm blaming her.
Ready for another?
What race he was, what ethnicity he was, Hannah.
Sorry.
I sound so educated. God. Anyways, despite hiding his identity on video, there was a white Ford Focus in the background that he is seen getting into. Authorities put out a bolo to all law enforcement along the I-10 for the Ford Focus, Jess. A Texas state police officer finds the Ford Focus in the parking lot of a hotel along the highway. He calls it in and he is told to watch it to see who comes out and gets in the car. They don't have to wait long, as there is a tall man that leaves the hotel and gets into the car. The officer is instructed to follow him as he gets on the highway. They run the plates and find out that it is a rental. The officer is then instructed to find a reason to pull him over, anything that gives him probable cause. Eventually, the car goes above the speed limit just barely, but it's enough to legally pull him over. The officer pulls up behind the car and asks the driver for his license, and that is when they finally have a name, Israel Keys from Alaska. Why is a man from Alaska driving a rental car through Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas? Good question.
You know who I'm worried about is the daughter.
Yeah, so she is supposed to be... So Keys states that he's in Texas for a family wedding, which is true. And he is supposed to have his daughter. His daughter flew with him from Anchorage.
And she's 10, you said?
Yeah, but she's not with him. He says that she's with his brother when he gets pulled over.
So I know you said that he looked up to Ted Bundy.
Yeah.
This is very Ted Bundy-like because we know that Ted Bundy had a relationship and she didn't know for ever what was going on.
Yeah.
So that really reminded me of Ted Bundy with that part.
Yeah. And so his daughter's from a previous relationship, but even his girlfriend, and he makes sure, he's like, she had no idea what was going on. And neither did his baby mama know what was going on. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
And he and we'll get into this more in the next episode, but he tells detectives that he's like, there's two sides of me. And the only person that knows about this other side is me. So you don't need to talk to anybody else about it. Yeah.
That's very
crazy.
Ted Bundy-like as well.
Mm-hmm. So they end up searching his car and finding Samantha's debit card and her cell phone and what seems like a kidnapping kit in the trunk. So Keys is arrested and taken to the local police station. And at this point in the investigation, FBI is also involved, working with the local police departments. Keys is extradited back to Anchorage within a few days and the interviews begin. And you will never know what this douche canoe reveals.
Oh, boy.
But you'll have to wait till next week to find that out.
Oh, come on.
So wait till next week.
Wait, that's it?
Yep. For the continuation of Major Douche Canoe, Israel Keys. We will get into his confessions and his victims and how he totally played the authorities that were involved. Like, he had total control over the interrogations.
I'm so sad. I'm like so ready.
I know, but it'll be next week.
Thanks for a great episode. That was really good.
It's crazy.
Looking forward to the next one.
Thanks. So have a wonderful, blessed day, Wanderers.
Yes. Bye, Wanderers. Love you, mean it.
Bye.
Thanks for listening today. This show wouldn't be possible without our amazing producer and editor, Rob Fitzpatrick, who works tirelessly behind the scenes to bring you the best content.
And a special thanks to Taiga Soundprod for providing the captivating intro music. Cinematic Intro 24.
And of course, we can't forget the hauntingly beautiful outro music, Rhino's Theme, composed by Kevin MacLeod.
If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure to leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platforms, like Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Your feedback means the world to us.
Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram for behind-the-scenes glimpses, updates, and more thrilling content. You can find us at Wicked Wanderings Podcast.
Thank you so much for listening and being part of our Wicked Wanderings community. We appreciate each and every one of you.
Stay curious,
keep exploring,
and always remember to keep on wandering.